I can see in four dimensions. If that concept is a little hard to understand, I get it. It's hard to deal with too. While everybody in the world gauges their surroundings by way of height, width, and depth, I can see all that and then some. It's kind of hard to explain, really. I see in all the same qualities that you do, but it applies a bit differently. For example, if you were to show me a basketball, I can see all of it at once. Not just the one side that's facing me, but the entire sphere. Shadows, while they're cast on a two-dimensional plane, such as the ground, to me, they have depth and features. It truly is a unique experience to just be walking down the street and being able to watch people's shadows exist in three-dimensionally. While certainly being very different, this strange ability doesn't really hamper my life at all. I lead a relatively ordinary existence. I have a wife and two kids, and I work a typical 9 to 5 office job, Monday through Friday. I go out and do things with friends, and I love to go fishing. None of these things are overly different in 4D. Be it a gift, a curse, or something in between, it was something I was born with. Ever since I could remember, I saw in 4D. I didn't even know it was unusual until I made mention of something that no one else around me could perceive. That made for an awkward exchange at school. Later, my friends would take me to see 3D movies, which I have to say are rather underwhelming when you can already perceive beyond them. It was a waste of $3 extra since for me, every movie is a 3D movie. Movies to me come across more like stage plays. I honestly don't know what it's like to view action on a 2D screen. People have always assumed that I'm making it all up simply because they couldn't see what I saw. I can't blame them, really. Kinda like people with tetrachromacy, who have extra rods and cones in their eyes and can see colors that other people cannot see. Not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of jealous of those people. I mean, it must be cool to see all the other colors, but then how do you relay that information accurately to others? How exactly does one describe a color? It's just something you have to experience through your senses and that you can relate to other people's common experiences of. I figure there's something that some of you out there are wondering, and the answer is yes, I do dream in four dimensions as well. Dreams are often based on our experiences, and that's how I experience the world. I've been asked to do lectures at universities and to write articles about my perceptions of the fourth dimension. I do enjoy those things, and I love fielding questions from inquisitive minds about it. I even got a pretty penny to do a big guest lecture at UC Berkeley in a physics class. I would always begin every lecture with the same bit about how the first dimension doesn't truly exist. The second dimension was anything you could map out on the x and y axis. The third dimension was how normal people perceive things and can be mapped out on the x, y, and z axis. The fourth dimension was how I saw things. And the fifth dimension was an R&B group from 60s and 70s. That usually got a chuckle out of at least a few people. There's one major drawback to having this ability, however. That is that, while I can perceive the fourth dimension, I'm concerned with what lies in it. I believe the reason people by and large cannot see in four dimension is because there's stuff there that we simply weren't meant to see and understand, as it would defy all comprehension. The scary thing that I perceive on a regular basis is that when I look up at the night sky, I can see beings beyond our understanding, dwellers of dimensions beyond. They are large, powerful, horrid creatures that defy description. They lord over us, impassively watching our every move. I don't know if they know that I can see them. I imagine they do. I believe them to be gods of our civilization. They mostly stay at bay, not moving all that much, just watching us. However, there's one thing that's been troubling me a lot recently. That being, when I look up at them, I oftentimes see them shaking their heads. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and wondered what lay in the darkness beyond, I have seen what lives there. I have seen their amber eyes squinting at us in the dark, and they do not seem pleased with humanity. Recently, the planet has been in a fair amount of turmoil, ranging all manner of society problems. There are large amounts of political and civil unrest in many countries throughout the world. Several diseases have become far less curable and treatable, leading to a large number of deaths. The one that strikes me the most, however, is that what's going on in nature. Just last week, there were reports of extremely high winds knocking over trees and causing widespread power outrages in parts of Western Europe. When I saw the news report on TV, where a field reporter was stood outside near a road and talking about the devastation, meanwhile the wind was still fierce, I noticed something large and looming in the background. It was a huge gray monstrous being that had to have been 40 feet tall, with dark bark-like skin and four long spindly arms protruding from its body in all directions. Its face featured a gaping maw filled with long, sharp teeth and glowing amber eyes. It just hovered there amidst the billowing gray clouds behind the reporter. It would open its mouth wide, and with it would come a massive gust of wind. It was obvious that no one on the news team, not the reporter, cameraman, or producer could see it, but I could. As crazy as it sounds, I think I know what I saw. I believe this was Mother Nature, or at least the being that humans have credited as such. It had been over a week that that particular part of Europe had been without power, and the reports of the resulting unrest were disquieting, to say the least. People had resorted to stealing from their neighbors, with there even being one report of a man killing his elderly neighbor for what little food she had left in her cupboards. Things were swiftly getting out of hand. Another such incident involved a building catching fire in a large urban area. So far, there are no clues as to who may have started the fire, whether it was arson or an electrical mishap or anything really. Only when I watched the news report that night, off in the distance in the night sky, I saw a pair of the amber eyes that I had become accustomed to seeing. They sat upon a face that seemed rather pleased with itself. I couldn't be sure if that being had anything to do with the fire, but I had a sneaking suspicion that it did. However, the area with which I am most concerned is the political arena. In recent months, several major world powers have found themselves impasses over issues of trade and foreign policy. A couple of nations have even begun talks of starting wars. That's the part I find to be the scariest. It all escalated last week when one of these countries launched a nuclear missile over the landmass of a nearby island country that they had been quarreling with. When taken to task over this, the leader of said country claimed that they in no way authorized a nuclear strike against that or any country for that matter. I again have a hunch that whatever caused the missile to be launched came from beyond. I say a hunch because it's hard to get people to believe you when you see things that they cannot. And I saw something of the utmost disturbance recently. It started when I heard a siren that I thought I would never hear in my lifetime. It was an air raid siren. My country was seemingly under attack. There were reports of foreign fighter jets infiltrating our airspace and our missile defense system being down. This was it, I thought. Soon we may all be done for. I went outside and saw a set of 3 amber eyes looking down upon us through the clouds. I just stared up at the being for a while when I heard airplanes approaching. I looked to the north and saw 2 fighter jets flying south. Not long after, the southern horizon began to glow red. I knew what that meant. It was time to head inside. As I turned to walk back inside, I heard the sound of planes approaching once more. This time, it was 2 of our fighter jets. As they soared across the sky, I noticed the entity reach down with a strong reptilian arm from out of the ether, extending its three-clawed hand, and watched as it swatted two of the jets out of the sky. It was a horrendous sight. After that, I retreated inside as fast as I could and battened down the hatches after making sure my wife and kids were safe. We then headed for the crawl space. We emerged 3 days later to partially devastated surroundings. Reports said that we had been nuked and the war was imminent. The offending nation claimed no responsibility in the attacks, claiming that the pilots who bombed us had been rogue pilots. I believe them. I know what caused this. I know what caused all of this. I saw it with my own two eyes. Either way, my country has vowed swift retaliation, and war is all but inevitable at this point. It wouldn't matter what claims I could stake. No one would believe me anyway. I would probably just be thought of as some nutcase. But those higher dimensional beings, those gods of some sort, they impact us and our daily lives more than we could ever comprehend. And now, bad things are coming. In summation, all I have to say is this. We are completely at their mercy. There's no stopping them. I don't know how much time we have left. I feel the apocalypse is fast approaching.